You ever get that feeling where you walk into the shop, the air is still, and you just know you're about to turn a perfectly good piece of material into a very expensive pile of scrap? Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the den.
That sounds like a Tuesday for you, Tiger. Are we starting on a high note, or are we mourning a piece of exotic hardwood already?
No, we're looking upward today. I've been thinking about scale. I was reading about Direct Metals dropping this new 13-foot monster of a shear. It's got these CNC back gauges that make my old manual setup look like I'm trying to cut steel with a pair of preschool safety scissors.
13 feet? That's not a tool, that's a floor plan. What are people actually doing with a blade that long?
It's for the heavy hitters. Bar grading, wire mesh, the kind of stuff that usually fights you every inch of the way. When you've got a CNC back gauge, you aren't over there with a tape measure and a prayer. You punch in a number, the machine puts the metal exactly where it needs to be, and it shears off a piece so clean, it looks like it was born that way. It's all about tightening those tolerances and stopping the measure twice, swear 3 times cycle.
I love that you think a 13-foot machine is going to cure human error. I've seen you miss a mark by a 1/4 inch on a birdhouse.
Hey, that birdhouse had character. But speaking of precision, if you really want to see where the robots are taking our jobs, in a good way, the Taiwan International Machine Tool Show is coming up, TMTS 2026. If you're a gearhead, that's basically the Super Bowl.
Is that where we see the smart manufacturing? Does the lathe tell me when it's feeling neglected now?
More like the lathe tells you the bearing is going to seize up 3 days before it actually happens. It's about being proactive. But look, you don't need $1 million CNC to feel the tech. Even 3 meters is getting fancy. They just pushed their Extract Cubitron 2 film discs into the 1,000 grit territory.
1,000 grit? At that point, aren't you just rubbing the wood with a very expensive piece of paper?
You'd think so, but for the metal finishers listening or the guys trying to get a wet look finish on a tabletop, this is the holy grail. Usually, once you get that fine, the disc clogs up in 5 seconds and you're just generating heat. These things stay cool and keep cutting. It's the difference between a finish that looks good and one that looks like you could dive into it.
Speaking of diving into things, let's talk careers. You were looking at the welding competitions recently, right? Skills USA?
Yeah, and it's heartening. Seeing these young kids lay down beads that look like a stack of dimes, it makes me want to go back and apologize to my first shop teacher. But the real meat for anyone listening who's already in the trenches is that CWI, the Certified Welding Inspector credential.
That's a lot of acronyms. Explain why a guy under a hood should care about becoming an inspector.
Because your back isn't going to love that hood forever. Certification is the only real leverage we have in the trades. It's the difference between being the guy who does the work and the guy who signs off on the bridge being safe to drive on. If your shop doesn't have a training program, don't wait for them to hand you a pamphlet. Go to your boss with the AWS corporate training info and say, I want to make this place more efficient. It's hard to say no to a guy who's volunteering to be more valuable.
I like that. It's moving from labor to leadership. But what if you're not in a shop? What if you're trying to sell your work from your garage? I saw the 2026 Instagram trend report, and Tiger, I think your messy workbench is finally in style.
You mean the unpolished look? Thank God. I was getting tired of seeing people woodworking in white t-shirts that didn't have a single speck of sawdust on them.
Exactly. The trend for 2026 is authenticity over polish. People are bored of the cinematic slow-motion pours. They want the sparks. They want to see the moment you realize you cut the leg too short. They want the will it weld, games, and the fast edits.
It's the human factor. People don't just buy a table anymore. They buy the 3 weeks of frustration you spent building it. That's why I tell people to record everything. Even the mistakes, especially the mistakes. That's the tuition people want to see you paying in real time.
Wait, did you just use a Tigerism?
I'm trying to keep it fresh, but seriously, look at the Forbes top creators list. They're taking nominations. If you're a maker and you've got a core community, throw your hat in the ring. We need more people with grease under their fingernails on those lists and fewer lifestyle influencers who've never held a screwdriver.
All right, let's get practical for the DIY side. I see these videos everywhere. The only 5 tools you need. Is that actually true, or is that just clickbait to keep me from buying a CNC monster?
A little column A, a little column B. Look, the big 5 usually boils down to a table saw, a router, a drill, a sander, and a circular saw. You can build 90% of the furniture in the world with that kit. People get caught up in the gear acquisition syndrome, thinking a $6,000 joiner will make them a master craftsman. It won't. It'll just make your mistakes happen faster and on a nicer machine.
Speaking of $6,000, have you seen the high-end reclaimed pallet trend? People are selling furniture made from old shipping crates for the price of a used Honda.
It's a bit of a circus, isn't it? But there's a lesson there. The value isn't in the wood, it's pine, for Pete's sake. The value is in the transformation.
Taking something that was destined for a bonfire and turning it into a centerpiece. That's the maker mogul mindset. You're selling the story, though if I see one more rustic pallet wine rack, I might actually lose my mind.
Noted. No pallet wine racks for the TigerDen merch shop. So what's the homework for the folks at home this week?
Reset the shop, seriously. We're in that mid-March slump. Everything is covered in a layer of winter grime. Spend one Saturday not building a project, but building your workflow. Clear off the horizontal surfaces, sharpen the blades. If your shop feels like an obstacle course, you're never going to want to be in there. A clean start is the best tool you can buy yourself, and it doesn't cost a dime.
A spring shop reset. I like it. It's less about the sawdust and more about the headspace.
Exactly, you can't do precision work in a chaotic environment. Or at least I can't. Every time I try to work over a mess, I end up losing my favorite marking knife and spending 20 minutes digging through a pile of offcuts like a raccoon in a dumpster.
Well, before you go dumpster diving, let's wrap this up. Whether you're aiming for that CWI certification, trying to make your first Instagram reel, or just cleaning your workbench, just keep moving.
Build something that matters, folks. Even if it's just a better version of yourself. We'll see you next time in the den.